African people must never forget. If others want to forget, we must never forget what we have been through, what we are still going through, and we continue to fight. And with this, I want to introduce a clip, something that has been happening here in Trinidad with our breakfast shed. And you know, a lot of times you say something and people are just saying, well, it's time for the African people to do this, and how much time they would complain about this. And I hear all of that. It's time for us to come together. And that has been my song. Let us come together, stand together, support one another so we can go forward in strength. And you would find a lot of things that is happening will not happen. Because one, we would be able to empower one another as to how to manage their resources, how to manage their business. Because a lot of us, we start business, we do things, and we fall apart. One, because we do not support one another. Two, because the Africans who are in power, when we look to them to help us and to guide us properly, they do not do that. As a matter of fact, they throw us in the gutter. And tonight, you know, hearing about the breakfast shed, and you know, on Tuesday I spoke about it, and some people would have made their comments, and I talked about the Mr. Aboud talking about how much rent, you know, that they haven't paid, and everybody had the worst to say. But I have someone online that I want to talk to. I want him to talk and let Trinidad and Tobago know what is the true story, what is the real story behind the breakfast shed, how it happened at the initial stage, what took place, what didn't take place, and why it has reached to where it is today, so that you would be empowered with the truth and not with hearsay and everybody saying what they want to say. So let's introduce my colleague and friend, who is the attorney representing the breakfast shed tenants, no other person than, I call him Sir Kenneth, attorney Sir Kenneth Munroe Brown.
Yes. Good good evening to all your listeners. And thank you for that most welcoming introduction, Madam Cruickshank. Um, what can I say? We are not all young persons. Some of us are quite old. Some of us are, you know, in our 60s, 70s, 80s, and so on. The young persons of this country, it would be unfair to ask them to remember something that didn't take place in their time. But there are many of us who have been around in the age of majority in the year 2005, a whole lot of us. And it seems to me that a lot of our people we have very short memories. So I want to come in and say that in 2005, I represented the breakfast shed when a person by the name of Calderhart, some people have managed to hate him a lot, others managed to love him. I think he needs to be loved for the big buildings that he put up. A bit ungrateful in the sense that turned on him in the way that we did, but that's life. You know, but he really lifted Port of Spain. So, you know, I don't know if he's alive, but congratulations to you, Mr. Calderhart. But I wasn't congratulating him back in 2005. Why was I not congratulating him? He wanted to remove the breakfast shed from where it was and put them, leave them on their own, as it were, you know, find whatever spaces you can find wherever. And when the cooks called me, and there were 15 of them at the time in the breakfast shed, the galvanized shed located around the Hyatt Tower D Judicial Complex area there, just at the start of Dock Road. And they called me in and they said, this is wrong, you know, they're trying to move us and we don't want to move us. I said, well, you know, let us fight. We don't have to go to court. They said, no, we don't want to go to court. We don't want all that sort of, you know, excitement and what have you. So we started a campaign to ensure that they got two things. One, proper compensation for the dislocation, and two, to get a long 99-year or 199-year lease. Now, the initial offer to each cook was about $20,000 by Udecott. And I told them to reject that. Then it went to 50,000. And I started a media campaign with, you would remember the names of George Umbalif and um, Gladiator, Ricardo Welsh. In fact, Ricardo Welsh was the main catalyst in terms of the person who was present in the media every morning, making a lot of noise on the radio about what's been done to these African people down at the breakfast shed, and the galvanized shed, that is. And so, together with that effort, things kept moving upwards. And things move up to 100,000 per cook, 150,000 over the weeks as the time passed by. And it went all the way up, eventually creeping up to 150,000, all the way up to $500,000 per cook. At that point, something happened. I was invited to the home of Carlton Phillips, QC, the great Carlton Phillips, one evening. And he didn't tell me why I was being invited, but Carl had a guest who came in from the United Kingdom, which is a judge by the name of John Roberts, QC himself. And he was my pupil master, one of my pupil masters in England, who showed me the way of the ropes, as it were, around the courts. And he wanted to surprise me. So Carl said, look, the pupil master when I arrived there at his home in Elizabeth Street. And in Carl's, study, there was another man sitting there. His name was Herbert Atwell. And I spoke to Mr. Herbert Atwell. I said, Herbert Atwell, I know you're the advisor to Mr. Manning. Can you speak with Mr. Manning and see status? And ask him, to do something for these cooks down there because they're being squeezed and they're crying every day and whatnot and whatnot. They're flustered. And, he said to me, Mr. Brown, yes, I'll do something. And he did something. He arranged for a meeting with the breakfast shed cooks and the Prime Minister. I was not present at that meeting because I suppose that the Prime Minister Manning wanted to keep things one-on-one with the cooks. And after everything was done, what was offered was a mere $100,000 and a promise that they would get a permanent home. Now, they fell out with me and I fell out with them, largely because I felt that I supposed to have been present to represent them at the Prime Minister's office. And, things went south, as it were. So they went on, did their business, and somehow the transaction never got complete in terms of whether they would get the 400,000 and the long-term lease or not. So time ran on and things went on, and they could give them a tenancy, which they should not have done. And they had to pay a rent of about $22,000 a month. And, things went on. But then COVID came. So many years passed. COVID came. And as COVID arrived, most of the businesses, all of the businesses had to close for about a year. And so, but why is that those businesses were closed on this new building, this new construction? Rent monies were choking up. So Udecott was still charging for the 22,000, what have you, per month. And that was just sort of spiraling up, stacking up. And then what happened? After the lockdown ended, they started.
Okay, I think we have a little situation here with our internet. So we're waiting on, let's take a break. We're going to come right back.
And we're back. Mr. Bridges, thank you so much for that clip. Knowledge is power, and I couldn't help but take some notes. And I remember back in the day of the voices of Umbala and Gladiator, and they were really the only voices back then who were brave enough to stand up to the PNM administration back then, who used to really speak truth to power and talk about the state of the Afro Trinbagonian community. I really appreciate Mr. Attorney Kenneth Munroe because, okay, he's back on now. We can go back to Attorney Munroe,
Attorney, sir,
are you there?
sir, Attorney
Yes,
Kenneth.
hello.
All right,
Okay,
so you can
perfect.
continue. Sorry about that. You
Hello.
can continue now.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Go
Am
ahead.
I being heard?
Yes, you are.
Yes.
Right. Thank God. Right. So
It seems as though we are still having some difficulty
so
here.
just
All right.
But we're going to come back to this because I believe our guest is back on. I hope we have a better connection. Attorney Kenneth Munroe, are you there?
yes, I'm here. I don't know if you're hearing
Great.
me clearly.
We can hear you loud
We're
and clear.
hearing
You
you
can go
now.
ahead now.
Yes, so you can go ahead.
Yes. Yes. Well, just to wrap up then, in short, the Patrick Manning administration was supposed to give these refugees a permanent home, which they promised. That didn't happen. They were supposed to give them another $400,000 per cook. That didn't happen. And so now the problem has ended up in the current administration's hand, the UNC's hands. And so we're hoping, and we've heard Mr. Warner has come out in support, which is extremely good. And we're hoping that the powers that be in the UNC would pull their heads together and say, listen, yes, the PNM made a mess of it, but we are going to have to clean it up, quite simply. Because, they have been there for all these years. They were uprooted back then from their breakfast shed galvanized structure, and promises were made and not kept. So it's about time that somebody does something to help them, and we trust that the existing administration, the Prime Minister Kamala Bissessa, will jump in and put things right for these cooks. The hard part about it is that most of them have gone in different directions, but I'm sure we could find them, their families or what have you. So thank you very much. Yeah.
Well, let me thank you, Sir Kenneth, so very much for coming and giving that explanation so that our viewers and everybody who follows us have a better understanding as to what took place. So thank you so much. We appreciate you. And we trust that you are going to be able to bring this home for the breakfast shed tenants. And this time around that they wouldn't be tenants but owners, and they'll be able to manage whatever that they're going to get. So you see, viewers, Trinidad and Tobago, this is what I keep talking about, and some people are distressed about it. They don't want to hear that. But it is always about the PNM not doing due diligence for the African people, and then who now has to fix it? Because for a whole decade, the breakfast shed has been having their situation, their problems, and could they open their mouth and talk to the PNM? Who was supposed to make sure that they have their stuff in order. But no, the UNC is in power, and that is who has to fix it for them. And yes, we are expecting that the goodly, honorable Prime Minister is going to come in and do something or send someone to help them, because here it is, they could never catch themselves from that. And here it is as well. You have the Syrians and the whoever talking about Africans always wanting free, and who always wanting free. But no, they didn't get justice at the beginning. And the deceased Prime Minister then, Patrick Manning, did not allow them to come with their attorney, bring them by themselves so they could outsmart them and fool them. And some of us, we're so stupid before we stand up and say, no, we're not having this conversation without our attorney. All you're going in because you know what? All you look up to the Prime Minister, our African Prime Minister, who you think will do good for you all, but didn't. I hope that you all learned your lesson. I hope that the African community learned their lesson. And this has nothing to do with race. It is the fact that when PNM is in power, you Africans get nothing. We Africans get nothing from them. And I'm talking about those of us who are not the hierarchy, who is not on top, the middle class and those on the ground, yeah? Nothing good, because you know what? They don't see us with worth. they see us with a few dollars that will make you more frustrated. And I am praying and hoping that this is going to be solved. We need the UNC government now, yeah? We need them to help us. And I pray that they're going to find the ways and the means to make sure that you all get back inside there so we can have our cuckoo and callaloo and stewfish and provision and all the things that people look forward, even when they come from the States for carnival and whatever, we look forward to going there and getting a good meal, a good African meal. All right? So I pray that that is going to be solved. I really pray.